Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming back to hear our next candidate on the Erin Cruz Show and the Candidate Connection. We have a special guest tonight running right up into his primary election, which I believe the vote is tomorrow, Thursday, the 2nd of August. Time flies. Is that correct? 2nd of August?
That's correct, 2nd of August, about maybe around 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, we'll know who the winner is. Hopefully it'll be us.
Wow. So this is Todd McKinley. He is running for the United States Congress. He's running in Tennessee's 1st District. I mean, he has an uphill battle there that he is winning. We are going to go ahead and, take over that House seat. Tell us, Todd, about yourself. And why you wanted to run for the House of Representatives and be in Congress.
Okay, yeah. A little about myself. I was born and raised here in the 1st Congressional District. I served 20 years in the United States Army. I'm an Iraq and Afghanistan combat veteran. Yes. I've served 6.5 years in the swamp in D.C. at the White House.
6.5 years and you survived?
I did. I survived. I served from 2002 to 2009, Bush-Cheney administration, then Obama-Biden administration briefly. Right. And I got to tell you, going to Iraq as a military advisor was better than serving under the Obama administration. I can tell you that. But, I retired from the Army and moved back home. Very active in veteran service organizations. Very, very passionate about serving the veterans, serving in my community.
You were just telling me that you were, in our pre-interview, that you were doing some work, right?
Absolutely. I was just at Veterans Town Hall here at the local VA. I went there for about an hour, just to hear what the veterans have to say, kind of get a feel for what's going on out there in the community from that standpoint that I don't see in my veteran service organization. So, and whenever we do win this thing, I'll know exactly what the issues are on day one going into it. And in fact, I'm actually running against the House Veterans Affairs Chairman, very ensconced politician who promised 5 terms, now in his 5th term, running for a 6th term. He's hoping people forgot about those things. So. That's a little bit about myself in a nutshell.
So, your family, you have?
Yeah, I'm single, and mother and father. I have 2 brothers, both who served in the United States Army. 2 nieces and a nephew. Aunts and uncles, but no kids of my own. So I'm going to be able to focus.
In Tennessee?
I'm going to be able to focus 100% of my time on this job. So that's what I'm going to do.
Right. So now your family, are they in Tennessee or are they?
Tennessee, and my older brother lives up in Norfolk, Virginia. He works for the Navy now.
Okay. So you have a family of service as well.
That's true. Yeah, I had a grandfather who served, great uncles who served. In fact, I had a great uncle who was killed in World War II. So a lot of history of service in the family, going back probably to maybe the Revolutionary War, at least the Civil War that I know of.
Right.
Yes.
I believe I remember we're in some groups together and reading about a little bit of that. So now, you're running for the House of Representatives. You're running a vigorous race. You really want to serve your constituents. You want to help. You want to help us because it's us, really. You're in Tennessee. You're running. What you do affects us over here in California. It affects all Americans, all citizens, and it's, but you want to change things up and you want to serve the people. And I heard you talking about, 4th term, 5th term, 6th term of the incumbent.
Right.
Where do you sit on term limits?
I'm all for it, actually. In fact, I've signed a term limits pledge to serve no more than 3 terms, and I'm going to move on after 6 years. Our founding fathers set it up to be a citizen legislator, or legislature, if you will, and we don't have that. We have basically bought and paid for politicians that go there, lose touch with their constituent, lose touch with their base, lose touch with what the real issues are and why they originally wanted to get into these things. And it becomes hard to get them out because so much big money gets into politics, and basically they're bought and paid for after so many terms. And I'm tired of that, and that's one of the big reasons why I want to run.
That's wonderful that that you're thinking of term limits. It might take you. I was looking at term limits, especially running for U.S. Senate. There is a reason why we have senior members, in this sort of thing for order and also for stability of the country. But I think you have something right. There should be a fine balance between how much, I guess about how much time these people spend in D.C.
Right.
and the money that's available to them or is made available to them by grabbing it. Look at Feinstein; she's a multi-millionaire on $200,000 a year. But I think you have it right that they leave their home. They pretty much spend a lot of time. It's supposed to be a part-time legislature.
Right.
Really,
Exactly.
If they spent more time at home, serving longer, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But, I think the system that we currently have right now is just riddled with abuse. Abuse and manipulation.
And that's why we need to make some changes there. Ethics changes. We need campaign finance reform.
Absolutely.
Again, term limits would help push back against the bad decisions bad legislatures make. So that's one reason why I support things like that. And there's a lot of other things we should end up pushing. But it's going to take the individual to show up to vote. My state, we are actually last in voter turnout. We're next to last in voter registration. And if you look at the number of people in the previous presidential election that didn't vote, we had like 90-some million eligible voters that didn't vote. Had they shown up and vote, maybe they could have elected a third-party candidate, or maybe Donald Trump would have gotten more votes, or Hillary Clinton. Who knows? But 90 million people didn't vote.
Right. And we do have a representative republic,
Right.
But I think that the important part is people need to be a part of that process. And then those people who aren't serving, and I agree with the campaign finance reform, there's massive abuse. I mean, once you're an incumbent, your purse strings are huge.
Yes.
I mean,
right.
and
Yeah,
trying
your
to
bank
get that
account
name
just
out.
grows exponentially.
Right. And so I think that your war chest is huge, and you can just go and do whatever you want. You have the name recognition. It makes it difficult for somebody else to come in and unseat them. But term limits, campaign finance reform, I'm sure term limits are high on your constituents list, of things that they want to
Right.
see done. Campaign finance reform, perhaps maybe some of them do. What are some of the other issues?
Some know a little bit about it, but when you talk about it in a different term, like you talk about special interest money, lobbyist money,
Right.
they understand it at that point whenever you start talking it like that.
Right.
Another big thing in my platform is education reform and healthcare reform. The person
Yes.
I'm running against is a physician. He talked about, give us the House, give us the Senate, give us the White House, and we'll basically repeal and replace Obamacare. And he talks about, I led the Republican charge to repeal and replace Obamacare. But that was a massive failure when President Trump got into office. It was a massive failure. No one wanted it.
Let's talk about this, though. He ran on that, right?
Right. He ran on that year after year. And he talked about having a piece of legislation. He used to pull up a stack of paper like this and say, I have legislation ready to go day one. But now that he's, got the House, got the Senate, got the White House, he doesn't talk about that anymore. That's out the window.
I just actually, I have to say this is a conversation that I'm having with many candidates, and it's. I believe this resonates with the everyday American and
Right.
many of your constituents. We hire you, and it's like a corporation. It would be different. We hire you for a job. If you don't do the job, you get fired.
Sure.
We hire politicians. We vote them in. If you don't do the job, well, you have name recognitions and huge purse strings, you're still going to get hired.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to get fired.
I believe that, term limits will help with that, but I think that people need to hear this. Todd McKinley wants to do the hard work that you've elected prior politicians to do, and they haven't done, and that is repeal and replace Obamacare.
Right.
And I think that's important to talk about that, Todd, because people have hired these congressional members in the House of Representatives over and over again. Let's take the House. Now we need the Senate.
Right.
Now we need the president. And then what? I mean, we have all three.
Nothing.
We have all three. There's now no excuse for not having repealed and replaced Obamacare, or at the very least, if they can't repeal it, they should have done more than what Donald Trump did in actually rolling it back and working with the Democrats to find solutions. They're not finding solutions. So, Todd, can you talk to your constituents and also the Erin Cruz show listeners and watchers about what your plan is to try to accomplish some of those hard tasks like immigration and Obamacare, getting these people to work?
Absolutely. Since we were on healthcare, I'll tell you what I want to see is upfront pricing. Day one with healthcare. You think about it. You go buy a new car. What do they have in the window? They have a window sticker. Why doesn't your physician have to have upfront pricing? That changes maybe on a somewhat regular basis. Maybe every year it can change. But they have to give you notice, hey, prices are going to change for this. Give you enough notice so that way you can shop for another physician. And your physician should have to compete for your business. Health insurance should be able to be purchased across state lines. Also I like to see patent reform whenever it comes to healthcare. You think about it, these health or pharmaceutical companies can basically set the price for several years at a time or decades at a time for whether it's some sort of opioid or medication that you need or medical device. Let's say they come out with a new type of hip replacement surgery. So they can set a patent on that. And they can renew that patent for indefinitely. So I'd like to see them not be able to do that. That way it drive down prices and we would get to generics a lot quicker.
Competition is what you're talking about. More
competition, absolutely.
Right.
You think about it. Somebody with diabetes buys insulin here for a month, pays about $500 to $700 for a month's prescription. You go to Germany, you're paying maybe $100, $200 at the max, or less for a month. Excuse me.
Right. So I think what I was hearing is competition, and we need to just start getting them to the place where they're. What do you think about like alternative medicines? I know here in California, one of the interesting things, there are a lot of bad things people say about California. I know it. I'm really working hard to take our country and our state back, but one of the interesting things is that they really had a movement for more holistic coverages for more holistic practices, because preventative medicine is such a key role, has such a key place in long-term overall health. And I think that it's important to look at the big picture. What do you think about alternative medicines and that sort of thing being, like you said, pricing and other things? I'm not talking about wacky treatments, but I'm talking about substantive, research methodologies that big pharma or even big lobby or even big government don't want to see. More competition. What do you think about some of those ideas?
If it works, it works. Things like acupuncture, as an example, I've had it done. A lot of people would down it, but things like that should be covered. Medicinal marijuana. We're finally just getting our arms wrapped around it, where that's a big topic in our gubernatorial or Senate races or House races. And where people are just now getting to the point where they're saying, oh, maybe we need to do some more testing or something like that. I'm all for that. I think we should legalize it, especially for medicinal purposes. And it would be an alternative to the opioids and would probably limit the opioid crisis that we're having. You push back against that, I think.
So alternative remedies are something that you're willing to look at, and as far as, regulatory restrictions and freeing up some of the regulations and letting the market work for itself. Reduce regulatory burden for sure. Pardon for me interrupting, but reduce regulatory burden without a doubt, and allow people to try. If we're going to live in a free society, people should have the freedom to choose things that work best for them. As long as a physician says, "Hey, this is going to perhaps work for your condition," by all means. And it's monitored healthcare. I think that your health should be between you and your doctor. Absolutely. And I think the insurance has to figure it out, but the regulations should be not burdensome. So now go into a little bit about, tax. I think that in why I'm thinking about this is we talked about regulation, we talked about big government a little bit in relation to Obamacare and it serving itself and feeding the beast and staying huge. About tax, I think tax reform, it's pretty much, Trump has done what he can, but I don't think they got as far as they needed to. And even in immigration, it's like they can't have these conversations and work for the American people. Where do you stand on furthering tax reform?
I'd like to see probably, the IRS be defanged, if you will, so they can't be weaponized by future administrations, because at some point it's going to go back to the Democrats, and of course they'll weaponize it for sure. So defang the IRS, probably go to a flat tax, perhaps a 10% tax. I've looked at the idea of a sales tax, just a flat sales tax, something like that. So there's a lot of things that are out there that we could look at. Rand Paul has some great ideas. Ted Cruz has some great ideas. But less taxes would be a lot better. Of course, less government spending, less bureaucracy at the federal level, push more things down to the state and local level, like education, and a lot of those type of regulatory agencies as well. The federal government should only do just a few things: provide for the common defense, conduct diplomacy, and basically be the arbiter between the states. Really, 3 things.
Very simple.
Simple, but now we've allowed our federal government to grow to such a degree that once you create a federal bureaucracy, an agency or department, you can never get rid of it.
Right.
It basically creates a reason for being in itself.
Right. Well, I think you have a good point there. You make a good point. And it sounds like you want to move Congress in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And it's impressive that you've made the strides that you have. And we really hope here at the Erin Cruz Show and in California, and I'm sure across the nation, for those who know you and have been following you on social media, because you do have a social media presence, we do hope you get into office, because with people with your background, with your ideas, we'll be able to make ground and have the conversations, and you'll be able to bring the conversations back to the people, because that's one thing that I've seen is your interaction with people is that you will be willing to say and be brave. You're a veteran. You've faced some difficult things. You'll be brave and come to the American people and say, these are the issues. I'm working to try to get these things done. These are the people who aren't working with me. And, try to have those conversations, because Congress isn't serving the people right now.
It is absolutely not. It's serving itself for the most part. There's probably, like the Freedom Caucus is probably the only caucus in the House that's actually trying to get some stuff done. There's probably other people that are out there, but just the Freedom Caucus is a group I'd love to join. I'd love to see Jim Jordan become the next speaker, if at all possible. Those are people I'd really get behind in Washington. Well,
I want to thank you, Todd, for being on the show. I want to invite you back after the primary and talk, and have you talk to people and share some of your experiences with primary and everything else. But can you do like a quick recap to the people? Let people know your name, really quick about your background, and then let them know where they can go to contribute to your campaign, time, talent, treasure, and everything else, Todd.
Absolutely, yeah. Website is toddforhouse.com. That's TODD, the number 4, HOUSC.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, @ToddForHouse. Retired Army paratrooper, 40 years old, a lot of energy. I've got a lot of young men and women behind me working, and these are the young people I'm going to bring into the party to help grow the party, grow that conservative libertarian movement, because if not, the Democrats are going to recruit them, and they're going to go the wrong way, and the country goes the wrong way. So those are things I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on pushing more things back down to the state and local level, getting the federal government out of your way as best we can over the next 2 years.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining us here on the Erin Cruz Show. God bless you, and keep up the hard work.
Well, I certainly will, and when I get to Washington, we'll help make America great again, and of course that will help make California golden again.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Todd. God bless you.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about the Erin Cruz Show, visit us online at erincruz.com. That's ERINCRUZ.com.